Hi there. So in this video I'm going to talk about my process of coming to the decision to get top surgery. And I guess I'll start by talking about my childhood a bit. So I was always a tomboy, always dressed in boys' clothes, and most of my friends were guys as well. And when I was playing with my guy friends, I pretty much always had my shirt off and was running around with them and wrestling with them and whatever. And then when I went through puberty and started growing breasts, I became really uncomfortable with my body. And, I was always on the quest to find the tightest sports bra in the world. And, was never satisfied with that. So I always dreaded going into bra stores. I'd go in there and look at the few sports bras they have. Mostly were hot pink, and I'd be mortified if any of the staff approached me and asked for help, or asked if I needed help, rather. I just hated it. I tried not to make eye contact with anyone. I just go in there and try to get out as fast as I could. It was hell on earth. So I always wanted to wear something tight enough to keep my chest still, if I was being active, and to sort of hide them under baggy clothes. And I was just always pretty dissatisfied with my body and with my appearance, because I felt unattractive. I wasn't like any of my other female friends. And I grew up in a small town. I grew up on a farm, and there weren't that many different representations of women in the town, so I didn't see anyone else who was like me, and I just always assumed that someday I'd be able to deal with my breasts. I'd just figure it out, and I'd grow into this feminine woman, and I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore, because I just thought everything would be easier when I grew up, but clearly that is not the case. So I'll show you a few pictures from when I was a kid. Some of them are smoke damaged because we had a house fire, but you can still see them. There's me, little pot belly. This one's pretty good. Got my shoes on the wrong feet, looking tough. Here's my brother and sister and I. This is a photo of me as a teenager with my brother. I had pretty long hair, so I wasn't ever mistaken for a boy, really. Well, actually, I hated brushing my hair so much, and it would just turn into this giant dreadlock. And so eventually it got so knotted that I had to cut all my hair off because I couldn't get a brush through it. And that's when other kids were like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And I remember being upset by it and just not wanting to answer that question. And kids are so shameless about that sort of thing. I could hear them talking to each other, being like, "Is that a boy or a girl?" "I don't know. It's a girl." "No, it's a boy. Just go ask them." And whatever. And I'd just be fuming, And I remember being really upset about it and going to my dad and being like, "Dad, do I look like a boy?" And he was like, "Yeah, you kind of do look like a boy." And then I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess it's not a big deal." So that was pretty cool. But here's another picture. I was pretty into flexing my muscles. I was also pretty into dressing in drag from a very young age. Pretty cool. Anyway, so, yeah, and then I became a teenager, and high school kind of sucked. I mean, I had friends. I didn't really have any problems in the social department, but I wasn't a happy teenager, really. And then I moved to the city about 6 years ago, I guess. Maybe a bit longer. I moved here for university, and like before I moved here, I didn't really know anything about the queer community. I didn't know anything about the transgendered community. I didn't even really know that transgendered people existed, you know? Like, the only thing that I'd heard were like offhanded comments about people getting sex changes, you know? Like, I hadn't heard anything real about it. Um, so, yeah, needless to say, it was very educational to move to the city, and I became a part of the queer community. I had queer friends, and that's when I like sort of realized that I wasn't gonna grow out of being boyish, and that was fine. Like, I started to feel more attractive and more comfortable looking and dressing the way that I wanted to. Um, but, you know, still always kind of hating my breasts. So I started binding, I guess, in second year university, just using like a big tensor bandage. And those are pretty terrible. They're really painful. They're just bad all around. Like, you have to wrap it around yourself so many times, and by the time you have it completely on, it's like an inch and a half thick under your shirt, and it just looks really lumpy. And I would always do it so tight. Like, I'd be getting ready to go out, and I'd do it so tight, and it would feel fine when I first put it on. But then, like, half an hour after leaving my house, I would just get splitting pains in my ribs, and I'd have to, like, find a washroom, and I'd be, like, pulling on the bandage and trying to, like, adjust it, and yeah, it was just always pretty terrible. And then I discovered that there were actual binders made for breast binding, aside from tensor bandages. So I bought some of those and started wearing them sometimes, and then started wearing them every day. I guess I've been wearing them every day for maybe 2 years, and also thinking about top surgery for about 2 years. I didn't know that was an option either until I like came across something on the internet and saw some pictures of some top surgery results, and you know, it's just kind of like a spark went off in my mind, just thinking about how free I would feel, like in my clothes, just being able to move around and not having to worry about like adjusting my binder and like not sweating my ass off in the summer wearing so many layers, you know? So I just like, just the thought of it seemed really liberating. But I had a lot of concerns and worries about it because I identify as a woman, and so there was a pretty long thought process um, with that, and like figuring out what it meant to be a woman with no breasts. And there were a lot of conversations that I was having with my girlfriend. She really helped me to, you know, come to the decision of getting it, because I was like, when I first started thinking that that was something I wanted, I would like try to find justifications in doing it in comparison to other women. You know, I'd like look through a fashion magazine and see a really thin woman who had no breasts, and I'd be like, well, she has no breasts and she's still a woman. Or a woman who has to get a double mastectomy because she has breast cancer, you know, she's still a woman and she has no breasts. But then I just realized that I didn't need to justify it. Like, it's just who I am, and it would make me comfortable, so it's right for me. But I still I felt like getting top surgery was kind of a political statement, and like, I could justify it to myself, but how would I be able to justify it to other people? Like, how would I be able to be a spokesperson for, you know, genderqueer people and trans people? Like, I didn't feel confident in myself intellectually in that way. Like, you know, I'm not, like, yeah, I am a political person, but I'm not really very outspoken, and that kind of worried me because I felt like, you know, I would have to be kind of on guard all the time or something. But then, again, it's like, this is my experience, and all I can talk about is my experience. And I don't have to speak for every genderqueer person or every trans person, I only have to speak for myself. So this video is getting very long, so I think I'll end it there. And in my next video, I'll talk about how I'm really trying to make this happen, and I really want to get top surgery sometime this winter, so I'm trying to figure out all that stuff. And I hope that wasn't too boring for you. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care.